So in today's video I thought we'd take a look at the Parkside 1400mm bandsaw. Now I've owned this bandsaw for 10 months now and there's pretty much nothing I haven't cut on it. I've cut softwood, hardwood, perspex, PVC pipe. I think about the only thing I've not cut on it is metal, and that's because I've not had a dedicated metal cutting blade, so I don't want to knacker up the blade that I do have. When I first purchased this saw, it came with a 7mm thick blade, and as you would expect with a cheaper tool, you don't always get the best accessories with it, and the blade let it down at that point because it worked for a month or two, but after that I really struggled to get any tension in the blade and keep tension into it. All the blade wanted to do was drift when I was cutting things. It was alright if you were doing lots of twisting in the cuts, but if you wanted to cut straight pieces of stock then you had no chance. So I took that blade off and I bought different blades since, and I've absolutely had no problem with those blades, so it's well worth upgrading the blade when you first get this saw. So let's talk about the bandsaw itself. Well, it comes with a 350 watt induction motor, and something I really like that it comes with is this 3 meter long paracord. I find it really handy. I can put the bandsaw virtually anywhere here in the garage and it's in reach within one of my sockets. A safety feature fitted to this bandsaw is each of these doors have limit switches on them, so if the doors are open you can't start the bandsaw, and equally if the bandsaw is running and as soon as you open a door the bandsaw will stop. So moving on to the tabletop, obviously it's a cheaper tool, you can't expect a cast iron tabletop on this. It's made from pressed steel or tin. It's 300 by 300mm square, and the throat, which is from the blade to the side frame support, is 200mm. The rip fence, well, you've got this little lever here you release, and it releases a catch here at the back, so you can lift it off, and when you turn that up it pulls the catch in at the back and clamps it into position. However, it's locked in position at the tightest I can get it. I can still move it about. So to tighten it, you can release the catch and twist it clockwise, which will pull the back in even tighter, and then you can turn it up and lock it into position. However, I don't want to put any more force into it because I feel like I'm going to break it. And this little lever here isn't locked in, and I can see it actually slowly creeping backwards, which is a shame because it's locked in really nice and sturdy. But it's one of those things, if you take your time and get it set up right, then you can actually still achieve quite a nice cut on the saw. Now, because you can actually clamp this fence on an angle, which isn't always good when you want to do a straight cut, all I do is I use an engineering square and I'll place it on 20mm and I'll slide the fence up to it and then just lock it into position, and then I know I've got a straight fence. So looking at the back of the bandsaw, you've got this knob here which is your tracking adjustment, so it will tilt the top wheel forward or back to improve the tracking. You've got this one here with a locking knob on it, and that is to move the blade guide up and down. You can also tilt the table with this ratchet handle and this locking nut, and you can then tilt the table up to 45 degrees, and of course you can just lock it back into position. Now, while we got the table tilted up, I just wanted to show you this bolt here. This is the adjustment bolt, so that every time you turn your table back to 0 it's actually flat. Now I've got it on maximum adjustment, look how loose it is. Now if you're sat there watching this thinking it looks awfully familiar, well, you would be right. It's made by Shepak. In fact, if you get any problems you have to contact Shepak direct for support on this tool, and Shepak also make the Aldi version of this bandsaw. The only difference that I can see is whereas this has 2 locking points on it, the Aldi one only has 1 on each door. I also think the Draper bandsaw, I think it is quite identical, although I've not seen one in the flesh to compare it with. Currently I've got in there a 12mm wide 4 TPI ripping blade, and this is working absolutely fantastic. You get some really nice straight cuts in hardwood, softwood, in fact anything I've tried to cut really. On a recent project I used a bandsaw to cut through some maple on it. Previously I've cut Zebrano on it, which is a really dense hardwood, and it went through that problem free. And it will also cut ultra thin strips if you so wish so I'm quite happy with the power of the motor. So that's some of the features with this bandsaw, but what don't I like about it? Well, you'd be surprised actually, because bearing in mind the price that I paid, I can't really fault it too much. If I want to be ultra picky, I could say that the insert plate does fire out now and again, and it is a bit flimsy. There's also the fact that the blade guide is a little bit wobbly and awkward to adjust, but it takes a little bit of time, but you can get it set pretty well. And then there's the dust extraction connector. Now this is the hole on the back of the bandsaw for the dust extraction connector to fit into. I've been waiting to do this review on it before I fixed it. My problem with it is once you clip it into position, it doesn't sit in very tight, and in the past has come off. So what I plan to do is to glue it into position. Now this might just be an issue with mine, but I don't know. So with a generous helping of super glue around the face of it, I can fit it back in and let it glue up. Next is the problem of the connection to the extraction hose. It doesn't fit anything I have, so I also had to make one of these connectors to get it to fit. So before we end this video, I just want to look at finally the dust extraction with a vacuum attached to it and without a vacuum attached to it, and just see if there's a difference between the two and if it's actually worth the effort of plugging in a vacuum extraction system to it. So first, with the vacuum connected to the bandsaw, I'm going to make 6 cuts in this piece of 18mm plywood, and then have a look at what dust is left over. There is a bit of dust on the workbench and the tabletop, but most of it was contained in the bandsaw. Now I can clean out the bandsaw and make sure it's free of dust. I can make a further 6 cuts, but this time without any dust extraction connected. This time there was a lot more dust in the top part of the bandsaw and far more dust on the workbench. The lower door also had plenty of dust spilling out from it, and it was starting to build up on the inside. And then if we look at these two pictures, the one with the red circles highlights where more dust gathered without the dust extraction connected. So as you can see, even from that small test, it is definitely worth connecting your dust extraction system to the bandsaw. Even those small 6 little cuts that I made, it was noticeably different, the amount of dust that was around the worktop. And less dust on the worktop means less dust in the air, and less dust in the air means I ain't got to clean up all the time. Anyway, that's it for this one. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, by all means give me a thumbs down. Hit subscribe, comment below what you think, and also look out for a video coming out on my Patreon, which will be free to view for anyone who wishes to do so. So I'll see you again next week.